welcome to Postcast Fish Talk. I am Rachel Post.
Brian Post.
And tonight we are joined by Wesley Gore, Bassmaster Elite Series Angler. Welcome, Wesley.
Thank you for having us, or having me in particular, but it should be fun. I always enjoy doing this.
Yeah, it's a good time. You know, with everything going on in the industry, she talked me into this a while ago, and for a while, I was like, nah, we got too much to do. I don't want to do this, you know. Then finally she's like, no, we're going to do it, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, fine, but we're not going to talk about all the drama and the BS going on. We're just going to sit around like good old days and talk about fishing. Good stories, fun times, positive things in the industry. You know, I haven't only been here since 2020 as far as fishing anything with bass. So I just got here. So I don't want to hear how bad it is. I want to hopefully it endeavors and moves forward and we can continue to fish. So
right. Well, it's always good for y'all to be together as much as she travels with you. So she's in the loop with a lot of this stuff.
I am. Sometimes I try not to be, but
oh no, there's no not trying not to be. You're right smack dab in the middle of it.
I've been fishing mom, fishing wife. I've been something to everybody, so it's fine.
Yep, forgot your jersey at the house, needed for weigh-in, Blake.
But yeah.
Stuff like that. Partied too hard that night of practice, and all the other guys went fishing, and I can't find my truck. Can you come pick me up, Blake?
I got everybody. It's fine.
Yeah, so. Well, man, let me tell you what. Rookie season on the Elite Series, 10th place Angler of the Year. I mean, dude, you come out of the gate swinging.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, only having one bad one. I guess I really wish I wouldn't have had the bad one, but everybody wishes they wouldn't have had a bad one. You know, but I'm happy with it overall. I still think back to several days that I could have done something different and it could have been better, but everybody has that, you know, so.
Yeah, it's just natural instinct to being a competitor, I think.
Right. You know, but it's all good. I'm happy with the outcome. No regrets. A lot of learning, and even as much as I do know, I still learn stuff about fishing, but more about just, I guess, the approach. I thought I was pretty dialed in with how I approach tournaments and how I fished them, and I am to an extent, but it's a totally different game whenever you put it in gear and take off at one of them tournaments. I mean, the process that I had to change was like in the opens, you know, you're like, you always got to catch a certain amount to stay competitive. Like here, there's none of that, because it don't matter if you finish 100th. So what? That's not the goal. You're there. I mean, like you're trying to qualify for the classic. I mean, that's the thing. So we kind of learned to swing for it. That was my lesson I learned from the Harris chain this year.
So swinging for it, huh? That's interesting, because I've talked to one of the most interesting things that ever told me about practice, because that always intrigues me, because, you know, I had a really bad year this year in 2024, but I always talk to anybody that's been more successful than me or any guys that finished worse than me. I want to know how you practice. I don't care about what bait you're using or what the secret technique is or where the fish, what the secret spot was. I want to know how you practice, how you prepare. Drew Cook told me a couple years ago on the Elite Series, he goes, the first 2 days, I do what historically has won or finished high on that lake in the practice. And then the third day, I go do my own thing off the wall to try to find something. And he said after the first hour on the first day of the tournament, if you don't have a big sack and you're not whacking them, you're just fishing for points.
Correct. I fish a lot different than that, so I can't relate to that situation. So I guess my practice is the first 2 days I spend doing what I want to do, and the next time is just I go to the historical stuff. I try to stay out of the way of people. I want to do my own thing. I did that a lot in the opens. I never had to really – there was a few times I was around people, but, you know, that's certain events where you couldn't get away from it. But most of the time I was alone, and I like that the best. So I don't know if you can ever win an event that style, but there will be a time and a place you can.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it worked for you. So that's I
have a very specific, I guess, way that I break down fisheries and things that I look for. The way I practice, I don't really change it up a whole lot. I can't say I did this year. The only tournament that I did change it up was the Harris chain, and that's because I had so much prior knowledge to getting there. So I mean, I don't pre-practice or anything like that, so I just kind of figure it out as I go.
You gonna pull the curtain back a little bit? Let us in on.
Oh yeah,
More than just-
I mean, I guess with the prior knowledge this year, like the Harris chain, the way I went into that event, like I wanted to go learn about. I had all these places in Dora and Beauclair and Carlton and Harris, and the lake that I hadn't spent a ton of time on was Eustis. So I spent the first 2 days in Eustis, and I found some really good stuff. But I, I just was, I guess, immature in making the decision of the wind. We had a frontal day that day. They canceled. And then knowing that you had a massive front, you were going to have a cold front following it always like that. Well, they didn't predict it to blow as hard as it did the first day of the event, and then it freaking gassed out of the north. It was only like predicted to blow like 6 to 8, and it blew like 15 to 20. So everything I found in Eustis, which was the stuff I knew I wouldn't be around people, because some of the stuff that I had fished in prior events, I mean, that's where I qualified at. There was a lot more pressure on. I was trying to stay away from, and I knew where the winning group of fish was. I mean, I qualified on them last year, so
Right.
I mean, they were very close. They were about 100 yards away from where they were last year, and it is what it is. I don't regret that. I just wish that I would have just been more disciplined in my decision making and not tried to force it. That's not something I normally do. I'm usually very just go with the flow, and I really forced a lot of stuff there to try to stay out of the way. I should have just got around people and fished.
Sure.
I mean, I would literally just ride down a bank, and like there was key stretches of bank that would have shad spawns in the morning, and they were just loaded with boats. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. And I'd run to the opposite side of the lake just to try to be away from everybody, because I'm like, what makes that better than this, or et cetera. There's certain times that I would have tried to get in there, but the wind really disrupts those Florida lakes, and I was fishing in that craft was not good. So
Yeah.
I guess that's the one thing, but Florida's unique. I mean, but I guess
It is.
it's a different. I do very well there, or I'm not good at all. So that's not my consistent place at all. It's really good or really bad. But everywhere else, I definitely have like a very specific game plan that I follow every time that I approach a lake. So I can talk about that stuff. I mean, it's very simple. It may help you some. It it numbs things down a lot. It's the way that I was very successful here, and it allows you to understand the fishery. So, but usually the first day of an event, I'll run around and I hardly or practice, especially in the opens. The elites now, it's not as easy to do that because you only have 3 days. I usually spend the first few hours doing it, but uh, the opens, I would start off and spend the entire day just scanning, and I would find the areas of the lake that had the most hard bottom or best bottom composition. And then I would look at a map, and based on the contours that had the most flats available, I would fish. The next day of practice, I would start where the most flats were available with hard bottom. So you wanted those two to combine. And generally, you'll find the best population of fish in that zone. You're around the biggest population because a fish can do its entire life process in one zone without ever leaving it. It can go up to spawn, have post spawn, fall itself out, summer, winter, and go back and do it. And they never have to leave this one tiny zone. So there's a huge population of fish that live around these expansive flats. Obviously there's a few things that you want to look for, a creek or something that makes it different. Like there's not necessarily a perfect one, but you got to kind of put all these factors together. But generally, every lake has one or two places that may be like that. And that's where I seem to find myself and spend my practice a lot of times. I guess another event I can think of, not elite, but open, was Watch Bar. I was kind of by myself. I found a lot of like isolated cover. I wasn't specifically targeting one thing. I was junk fishing, but I had marked a ton of stuff in from 2 foot to 20 foot that I could pull up and catch a fish on, that other people wasn't throwing at. So that's a lot of how my success came to get to where I'm at. And even this year, I spent a lot of time doing similar things. This year I really tried to find a place to do a lot of my damage in an event, and I would use those one fish places to upgrade my limit, and save a few every day. So that's kind of my approach. I've expanded on that a little bit. I was, live scopes opened up a totally different spectrum of fishing, with the bait ball stuff. I was a side scan, down scan kind of guy forever, and I'm very efficient with the other. I've done very well with it, but it's definitely been, a learning curve. It's hard for me to look at that screen all the time because I want to go do something else, but I still do it. I have to.
Unfortunately, yeah, it's kind of come that day of age where you have to compete. But no, I mean, that's, I think about it, and every time I have a conversation with somebody about that, about like how they practice stuff, and I think back at mine, and when it comes the way you're thinking of it like that, I think, man, I definitely need to change my game plan because I get in the habit. From up north here, you go find a good section of bank or a weed point, and you just start going, right? I have my back is not ever cooperative with me, so I sat a couple tournaments I would go or practices. I might go 3 or 4 hours straight idling.
Right.
A record for me, and then I have to stand up, and then I stand up for a couple hours, and I might idle for an hour. But I know I need to do more of that, and it's hard because the lakes are so big, and you want to see everything, and but like you said, it's all a process. Looking at the map, kind of tying it together.
I can eliminate 75% of the lake before I put my boat in, even though I've never seen it, just by looking at a map. I want to be in a zone that has excessive, like, giant flats or just flats that are available. So when I say that, it's not necessarily a certain depth. You just want those gradual contours. I really look for them to be on a north bank, especially in the springtime. That's protected from the north wind. So they're south facing. So the cold doesn't affect it. The only thing that has an overall effect on that would be the nightly lows. So that affects the whole sphere of the water itself. I mean, it's going to change everything, especially if you're in a creek. It's the overall amount of water in a creek compared to the main lake so much less. It's going to drop the creeks quicker than it would the river. So you just have to count. My brain just constantly runs around that stuff. So it's good to dumb things down sometimes, but I make it sometimes a little too complicated. But complicated is how I got to where I am. So
I would say don't change it. You're doing good. Keep the wheels turning, man. You're killing it. So,
did you have a hard time adjusting to going from so many more days of practice with the opens to the 3 days at the elites? Because now starting this year, we're only going to have 3 days of practice for the opens this year.
I think it was I think 3 days is like the tops. I thought 5 was always too many.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I never fished the 5th day when I was in the opens. If I did, I wasn't around nothing. I can tell you that.
Right.
But I usually sat it out and just got my equipment ready and everything like that. I try to put all the factors or the odds in my favor, I guess. So with equipment and stuff, so I check it, make sure everything's good because everything's on the line. You can't have something go bad. But 3 days. The thing is like you still have 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Don't rush yourself. Like I guess the first event of the year. At Toledo, I really didn't, I knew what the event would be. It was a live scope event, like exclusively. So practicing there was like, I guess that wasn't even a real good one to say. That one I never felt rushed, but Fork for an extent, like I felt super rushed there. Like tough to navigate for the most part. The fish were in so many different places, and like that place is a ghost town. At Toledo, you can put the boat down and look around and you see fish. Like there was times I would go 3 to 5 hours and not see a bass on live scope at Fork.
Really?
But you would find them and there would be in a group. And then, yeah, it was crazy. And like different sections of the lake. So we had a massive front the 3rd day of practice, which I actually only practiced 2 days. I didn't even practice 3rd day because it blew so hard out of the north. So I practiced for that front, but like even like the protected stuff was affected by that wind, but I was trying to stay on that, protected from the north wind, same deal. But the water in every creek was so much different. Those fish go by the book. Like they would, if it would be 52 in this creek, they'd be, just starting to move. Then you get in a creek that was 57, 58, you would find them in, less than 6 foot of water, like almost spawning. And then there was fish spawning in places it was above 60. And that was super unique to see that. I guess I haven't really seen that, how they were so by the book, the fish, whenever they were doing what they were doing. It was pretty crazy because like you'd find them in this one creek, and the only thing that would be different was the water temperature, but then you'd have to relocate them based on where there was. So that's why you seen guys catching them on jerk bait, and then you had guys catching them on a wacky rig, and then you had some people catching them on bed. They were taking advantage of all three of those different, windows or bites that was going on because they were in different places. That's the thing you had to look at. All the guys that were in one creek were all jerking, and then you looked up to the lake, another guy, they were all throwing a wacky rig, catching them in 4 foot. Well, it was warmer up there. It's crazy.
That is crazy. It's how the fish know, like that built-in, Mother Nature, that built-in clock and the built-in thermometer, so to say, how they move like that and how they position. And when you can figure that out, it's a pretty cool thing. You can run it and, like you said, relocate them each creek.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I mean, a lot of that, I have a theory that they do have a clock in their head. We debate this and all this, but it's the photo period a lot. When the days get long enough, they commit. They'll, if the temperature can be right, but if the photo period's not right, they'll go up there, but they don't complete the process. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you were getting to see the fish commit to those places, but they wouldn't fully committing at periods of time because the photo period wasn't correct, But then you waited, and it became correct, and then they all go. Like you'd see massive waves on go.
Right.
So
I think that kind of ties in too with talking a lot of buddies around here. Usually we got our rut. The first week in November is when you want to be in the bow stand.
Right.
And everybody's like, oh, they're going to be rutting hard this week. They'll be rutting that hard. And I said, I believe same thing. Like it's the amount of daylight is what determines the rut. The temperature may determine the activity you see during the day or during the night. But I think it's the amount of daylight or the time of daylight is what really sets them off.
100%. I agree with you completely, and that's a good way to put it. The temperature may produce more activity, with it being correct, but they're going to commit based on something else, not just temperature. That's not the whole key to it.
Right.
It's a big factor, but it's not the most important factor. Our fish in Alabama, we'll get a warming trend like we're about to go on. We'll get massive rains or a bunch of rain and warm nights and warm days, and the water will warm up a few degrees. Those fish are like, oh, it's springtime, and they run to the bank, but they don't spawn. They're just up there. So it opens a bite window. You're catching pre-spawn fish.
Right.
Sure, but you're not catching fish that are trying to spawn. They just get up there and they're on the places they're supposed to be, but they're not spawning. That's why you can catch them. It seems to be a little more difficult when they lock down. You don't just catch them like crazy or out.
Right. The pre-spawn bite's definitely a lot better than that. When they're locked down and gotta have a precise cast, definitely.
Right.
Yeah. I've noticed that one time too, like the temperature, how small, how minute of a change. We had one time here at home in the spring. We were a week after ice out, and we were fishing 37, 38 degree water, and we found one 50-yard stretch of this channel that was 0.8 degrees warmer than everything else. We caught 30 fish that day. Every one of them was in that 50-yard stretch. We just watch it. It would go like 38.2, 4, 38.8 was the magic temperature, and you'd catch them. The second it went back to 38.7, you turn around, went back. It was literally 4 boat lengths. It was unbelievable. And it was on. They were all right there. It was unreal.
Yeah, those fish we don't give them enough credit.
Right.
Sometimes we give them too much. It's one of those give or take things, but they're smarter than we give them credit for. Just like anything, they know how to. They do what they do because they can't reason. That's what separates a human and an animal. They just do what they are wired to do. They don't have
what they need to do to survive.
Right. It's all survival based. Whereas that's literally it. We can reason. That's why we're different. They don't know why they're doing it. They know they need to do it because they need to survive. This is what I have to do.
Yeah. So, I'll often say that people ask, "Oh, how the tournament go?" I said, "Well, you know what? The thing's got a brain the size of a pea, but it's still outdid me today."
Right. No, 100%.
So Lake Fork, Century Belt, rookie year, a Century Belt.
That was fun.
That's cool, man. I was watching that one, and you caught that last one. You're like, I think that's it. I'm like, oh yeah, that was awesome to see that.
That was
was
fun.
very
I got
cool.
to catch them a bunch of different ways there. So I took advantage of every bite window that there was available. So I caught them doing all three things I told you, and I even caught some swimming a jig. So I was
No
happy.
kidding.
Happy little guy.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that's good when you get a whole variety and put it together like that.
Yeah,
That's very
100%.
cool.
So for your whole season, would that be one of your top highlights?
I don't guess I necessarily have like a top highlight. I have several, like, I guess my highlights would be like individual fish. Like I remember a period of time that things wasn't going correctly, and a fish changed the perspective on the day. Even at the level I'm at, it's easy to get, I guess, off track or down, whatever. It's the quicker you can get rid of all those thoughts, the better off you are. But sometimes it takes a bite or something for you to change. You can be as positive as you want to, but there's still this little guy over here and this guy over here, and sometimes this one talks more than this one. It just don't matter. But it's just certain fish. But overall, the fork event was the most fun. It was the most challenging as well, I would say, to me, though, because there was a lot of very difficult times or decisions in that tournament. I mean, there was one fish in that tournament that made the difference in me being there the final day and not. So pretty unique situation. But I ended up catching one flipping a boat dock. I caught one off a boat dock the first day. The big females were staging on. It was the only dock in the cove. It's where I was catching my jerkin fish in the morning. And then once the sun would get up, those fish would start to transition, towards the back of this place. It was the only stopping point. It was on a tip between two massive coves. Only thing they could stage on was like 6 foot deep. I caught one out from under every day of the tournament. I caught a 5-pounder the first day, a 6-pounder the second day, and a 9-pounder the third day. And the 9-pounder was the one I caught the third day. And there was always like 4 to like 6 under it, and they were big females. And I rolled in there, and I'd had 5 fish, and I had 2 2-pounders, and I caught like a 2.5 with an 8.13. 21 to 28 pounds or something. And that was the deployment.
Wow.
That's
like the rest of the event went fairly. The first day, the first 3 I caught weighed 27. So
the first 3?
Yeah, first 3 I caught weighed 27. I caught an 8, a 9, and a one almost 11.
Oh my! All 3 of those are way bigger than anything I've ever caught. My personal best is like 7.
Well, and the bad thing is the next 2 bites I got was a 7 and a 6. And I lost the 7, and I broke the 6 off on a stump. And then I proceeded to only catch 2 3-pounders the rest of the day, and I had 33 pounds and was in like 10th.
Oh, so you had 40-pound bay.
I would have had 40 pounds.
Oh my
I had
goodness.
a 40-pound bag hook. But after that, the second day I caught the first day I only caught like 12 or 15 fish. The second day I caught like 35. I mean, I blitzed them. But it was the smallest bag I had the whole event. It was like 27 and a half. But everything I had was a 4 to 6-pounder. I didn't have a giant. Well, then the third day I had 28 and caught 6 bass. That's it. And the last day was fun. I had 30 pounds with all like 5 and 6-pounders.
Unreal. That's cool.
There's always one day that's trying. I mean, it just depends on what day it's going to be.
Yeah, it has to be. I swear to God, that's how it works all the time.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy. So, what moving forward to 2025? What tournament are you looking forward most to on that one?
Oh man,
you really want to say coming up to the Mississippi River, right?
That one's probably the one that I think I will have the most fun at because it fishes the way I like.
Yeah.
I live on the Coosa River and it's changed the scope, but like that's how we used to catch them, was swimming and frogging and flipping and spooking, just power fishing. That's still, I find myself doing that a lot, even though I can't necessarily win anymore doing it. Like I'm gonna go out there and just have fun, and I'm gonna catch them the way I want to catch them. That's what I'm gonna go do. And it don't matter. So I just go do that a lot of times. I can compete doing what I like to do, but it's rare. It's rare to for you to be able to win in this time frame. But I'm very excited about that tournament. So I can say that's one of them. I really enjoy smallmouth fishing just because I don't want to say it's easy, but there's not as much thought into it as the rest of it. It's pretty mindless to an extent.
It is. It definitely can be.
I mean, I hate to say that. It's the truth, though. It's mindless. and you just float around. So St. Clair will be fun. It being like exclusively, I mean, I guess you can catch largemouth, but you're not going to compete.
Right.
But, you know, I'm excited about that one. I'm surprised we're not going up to New York again. I love New York. I love the state itself. Just being up there. Champlain was probably one of my favorite events this year. But I don't know if I necessarily have one that really stands out. The river may be the tournament that I enjoy the most or want to go to the most, honestly. I like those kind of tournaments. I don't like having to catch 30 pounds. That's just too much going on right there.
That's a lot. That's a big hurdle, and knowing that that's what you got to be at. I mean, that after the Open this year on Okeechobee, you know, you guys were there pretty early in the year. Correct? There could be potential for century belts again on Okeechobee.
Oh, dude, this 100%. Somebody will catch one, or a couple people will catch a century belt with 4 days of tournament fishing. I mean, there was people impatient it this year. Obviously, it won't be like Fork, not all 10 by any means, but because it's Florida, it's just impossible. There's no way 10 people are on them that good. But now that I said that, clip that, 10 people will catch century belts this year. But,
well, make yourself one of the 10 again. Let's do it.
But, you know, it's either going to be a really good event or a really bad one. We've already had that discussion. It's Florida for me, so.
Yeah. I've had some really good practice days in Florida and some okay days. Actually, when on the Harris Chain in 2021, when Keith Tuma won, there was that. You guys aren't going there this year, are you, Harris Chain?
No, so we're going to St. John's.
Okay, all right. So when you come out of the Venetian Gardens there, that big point on the left, there was a ditch, and it came up, and there was like hydrilla right there.
Yeah.
I found that like the third day of practice in the afternoon. I've been actually one of the times I've been idling half a day, and I come across that, and I'm like, holy crap, there's something different. I marked it, I wheel back around with the rail trap, catch like a 5.5, 6 pounder. I'm like, waypoint. I moved down about 100 yards, 3 more casts, catch a 3 pounder. All right, cool. Well, I had really good fish going on the north end of Griffin. So, of course, I do the whole lock thing, wait 2 hours to get through, run all the way up the north end of Griffin. Come back, I got like 5 fish for 6.5 pounds. Come back there for the last 2 hours on that spot. I'm inside, Keith's outside. And I didn't know him prior to that. And then day 2, I run back there all the way up to Griffin. I come back at like noon. And now Keith's on the inside, I'm on the outside. And I see him catch a good one. So we get close enough to talk, and I said, hey, you know, how'd you do yesterday? He's like, hey, I had like 12.5 pounds. I said, oh, so you're in check range, huh? And he's like, yeah, I am. I said, dude, I had like 7. I said, tell you what, you go where you want to go. There's a ridge. I said, you go where you want to go, and I'll stay away from you. Just if you start going this way, I'll go around behind you. And we caught a couple of fish there and stuff like that. And he wound up had a late flight that day, wound up whacking 20, and then caught that 28 on day 3 to win. So I wasted hours and hours going to Griffin, and he won half a mile from the boat ramp. Like when they were weighing fish and the wind was in the right direction, we could hear them on the end of day 2. We could hear them weighing fish, and that's how close we were.
Holy cow!
Yeah, that's crazy. So one of those times. But I, like you said earlier, I often find myself in the morning taking off, and first 100 boats ahead of me, 99 or 98 of them went to the right, and me and one other guy went left. I'm like, either I'm going to wreck him today, or I completely miss what's going on in this pond.
You know, I like to be away from people, but I don't mind fishing in the crowd. Sometimes you got to accept it. I mean, like this year at Wheeler and the Open at Wheeler, my worst finish in the Opens, one of my best finish in the Elites was on Wheeler this year. But you have to kind of accept being in the crowd there. Obviously, there's places. Wheeler's also the unique place that you can always find something that's isolated to itself. But the good thing is, like the Open, I had nothing. Like everything I had was community, and everything I had this past year, I had a little bit of both. So I was able to sample both things mixed together. That was the key to success there. So
there you go. That's awesome. I can't, like you said, especially up here, the smallmouth fishing, especially in the springtime, right? Sturgeon bait and stuff like that. If you're not in the crowd, you're not. I mean, you might not be out there. You have to follow that warm water pocket that kind of moves around out there. But the worst I have is like my team partner, or even at Coing on the Opens. Oh, that guy over there's got one. Oh, that guy in the orange boat's got one. Oh, that guy in the white boat's like, dude, just stop. Like, I'm trying to focus on what I'm doing. I don't need to be looking over there. Everybody's like, my buddy's like, oh, they got one. Go over that way. Oh, hey, they got, then you've got the people in the crowd that the guy over there catches one. Shoo, away they go. Then that guy catches one, and shoo, back to the crowd they go. Yeah, it's pretty.
Sturgeon,
like a flotilla.
I'll catch 30 pounds is pretty common on sturgeon bait, right?
It has been now recently, the last few years. Yeah, it's been with the advent of live scope. I mean, you didn't really hear about it too much. Like you got to mid to upper 20s.
Right.
But there's the last few years with the live scope and everything else, and just I guess the overall fishing has become so much more popular. But it's I remember the last time I was there for a tournament was like second week of May. We weighed 23.14 and we weren't even in the top 10.
That's insane.
Yeah, the guy ahead of me weighed in a 7.13. I had like a 6.5. I'm like, man, this is a giant. And he opens his bag. I'm like, I think that one swallowed the pop can. Like, I'm not weighing mine now for big fish. But yeah, I think we were like 11th or 12th, 14th, even maybe. It wasn't even in the top 10.
We got to hold the 8-pounder that Kyle caught. He caught it the first day of practice at St. Lawrence.
Oh, Kyle Penn, yeah.
Yeah, we traveled together, and I thought he was joking. Like, I love Kyle to death. We work very well together, but like, he'll catch one, call me. I caught a 4-pounder. We get back to the house. I'm like, well, all right, go over what you caught today. And he's like, I caught a 3-pounder here. And I'm like, I thought it was a 4-pounder. Nah, it's probably a 3-pounder. He called me this time. He's like, dude, I just caught an 8-pounder. I'm like, no, you didn't. I said, it's probably like a 6-pounder. And he's like, dude, I promise you. And what made it even worse was like, I had just caught one that was like a 670.
Oh, geez.
I was like, he's just one upping me right now. Like,
right.
I'm like, that's all this is. And he's like, bro, I called. He's like, come here. I've got the fish. I need you to look at it and take a picture of it. I'm like, all right. I was like a half mile from him. So I run down there and he's like, dude, look at this thing. That was the biggest, most absurd fish I've ever seen.
That's crazy.
Life. I was like, holy cow. It was so big. So big.
Insane. I remember seeing the picture of that.
That picture did
huge.
not do it justice. Dude,
I would have bet, yeah, I believe it.
It not even close. I'm telling you, it was the difference between the 670s and an 8 is not even close. They're not an inch longer. They're 4 inches taller and 2 inches wider.
Yeah, and they got that. I mean, it's almost like in the throat. They're so fat.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. I caught one in the tournament that was like a 680, and when it jumped, I was like, holy cow. And then I got it, and I'm like, it's the bad thing was the first thing I thought, I was like, it's still not as big as the one Kyle caught.
The biggest one I've ever caught, but it's still not as big as Kyle's.
Right. Crazy. I don't know what I would have done if I'd have hooked an 8-pounder. I mean, obviously you'd have thought it the same, but it would have been neat to catch one of those and go across the stage with it.
Dude, I did last year. Was that last 2 years ago? We were at up there at St. Lawrence, and I caught a 5.9 on the second day on my third cast, and I thought I was freaking king of the log. And I had 2 more with it. I went back 5 times. It was a little bitty isolated rock pile I found, like 38 feet of water.
Yeah.
And I third cast, ate it, come back, never got the mother 2. But yeah, it was that was one of the reasons, they got rid of the co-angler series now with the opens. And that would probably be one of the only tournaments I'd had a complaint about my co-angler. Super nice guy, very respectful. I'm reeling in. I knew it was a giant. We've already been back to the bottom 3 times. And like I'm reeling it and it swings left. I got about 60 foot of line out, and he throws over top of my line in front of the boat. And I look at him and I said, hey man, this is a big one. Can you reel your line in? And he just kind of looks at me. I'm like, dude, you're over top of my line. Reel it in. And please don't throw over me till I get the fish in. Like, the heck, man.
I've never had a co do that, so I can't say that. I've actually had really good co's. They never really bothered me. I've never been outfished by a co-angler, but I had one at the St. Lawrence River on day 2 that kicked my ass. He didn't catch necessarily. He caught equally as many as me, but he was catching bigger ones than me, and I don't understand how. We caught like 40 a piece that day. He was throwing like a crappie jig. He was throwing one of those little bitty grubs that have the paddle tails, like the 1.75. I don't know what they're, Mr. Crappie grubs on a jig head, and he caught like a 5.5. He had like 14.5 pounds on 3, and I weighed in 18. I had 18 both days. I was catching 3.5 all day.
Yeah, the first time at the St. Lawrence, my day 1 co-angler, I had 5 for like 17.5 or 18.5 pounds, and he had 3 for 15.9. Yeah, he had a 6.14 or a 6.14 and a 5.9 and like one that was under 3. Yeah, and he goes. I actually still talk to him, Matt McCarthy.
McCarthy.
He was a great guy, and I met him there, you know, this and that. And I told him, I said, hey, man, obviously I don't want you to catch anything behind me, but if you need help, holler. And he's like, man, I had a bad experience. I had a boater intentionally knock my fish off one time. I'm like, no problem, man. Right. So we're doing whatever. And I mean, I just made this drift and I literally spun the boat and he just flips the drop shot out the back of the boat. He's like, got one. And I'm like, because I had a couple good ones in practice on this one specific drift on the edge of this reef, you know, in the river. And he's like, I got one. And it hardly fought. And it comes by the boat. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, dude, that's a big one. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, that's a pretty good one. And it comes by and it kind of gets the back of the boat and it comes tail walking and he lost it. He's like, oh, I'm like, dude, like, just take your time. Like, I'll keep the boat position so you can get it, you know, like this and that. So I'm on the trolling motor, keeping it, you know, if it went down current, went with it, you know. And I'm like, you want me to grab that? He's like, would you please? Would you? So I get over there. I said, dude, I promise you, get it close. I'll get my hands on it. I'll get it for you. I promise. He brings it by there and I scoop it up and I just bear hug it and I roll over in the chair and I'm holding it on my chest like that. And he just reaches over my shoulder and lips it. He's like, oh, I'm like, dude, that is the biggest smallmouth I've ever seen. That is insane. I don't know who's more excited, me or him. It was pretty cool.
Well, he was pretty excited.
Yeah. It was awesome. But yeah, it was just his day. You know, it was unreal.
Right. No, that's what it's about, was getting excited. I still, if I ever lose the excitement or the, you know, the drive to like the enjoyment of it, then I won't do it anymore. You know, I do it because I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I caught it. Okeechobee. My biggest fish this year was at Okeechobee. Day 2, I made an adjustment. Day 1, I had like 8 pounds. Day 2, made an adjustment, and I wound up with like 16 and a half, and I caught a 6 1/4. Dude, I'm so bad at the Florida fish. I weighed it because I thought it was going to be like a 7 1/2 or 8. I thought it was going to be my new personal best. Hank's like, oh, it's a 6 1/4. I'm like, you sure? Like that's it? Thing's like 2 foot long, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dude, trying to re-rig my worm after a 6 1/4, and my hands are just like this. Dude. I mean, yeah, exactly. When you lose that, go home.
Oh, 100%. No, I agree. I'm the same way. If I ever lose that, I just won't do it anymore. So
Yep.
I love to do it. I don't see that happening ever or anytime soon by any means. But that's why we do what we do. We all enjoy it. At the end of the day, every person that goes out there, they do it because of that moment or the opportunity to have that excitement, you know, from whatever it is, the rewards in the eyes of the, you know, the person that's doing it. So
that's right. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
So, being top 10 in points, you are classic bound. That's got to be pretty darn exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I push things off and don't make them seem like a big deal. I was gonna go pre-practice and I was like, maybe bad mojo because I'd never pre-practice. I was like, I'll just figure it out when I get there. So I'm gonna wing it like I always do for a little while. I'm sure we'll figure something out, but I'm super excited about it. I try not to think about it too much, but you know, it's 3 days of fishing that could potentially change your life. So
yeah, absolutely, sure. Absolutely, yeah. The whole that I'm the same way you are, because as my painter told me one time, guys think in boxes, and women think theirs is like spaghetti. It's all intertwined. So Monday to Monday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm in, especially now because we're frozen up here, I'm in work mode. Like I'm working New Year's Day. I work the day after. I got up early the day after Christmas, come back from her parents' house, so we get work done. I'm working tomorrow, working Sunday because I can make some extra money. You know, it's go time for work. You know, fishing will come. But yeah, that's when I was a kid. I always went fishing with my dad. I mean, we fished for whatever, pike, bass, bluegills. It didn't matter. We had a little tin boat. But my neighbor up the road, my parents' neighbor, just bass fished. So if my dad worked on a Saturday or Sunday, I'd pedal my bike up the road, back his truck out, hook it up to the thing. I'd be sitting in the passenger seat, maybe an hour, maybe 20 minutes. He'd come out, away we'd go. And he would call the house the night before. Say, yeah, is Brian going to go fish with me tomorrow? You know, tell him to be up to the house in the morning. And I couldn't, you know, like you said, the anticipation, I never slept.
Yeah.
So then the next morning, and then by noon, I'm 12 years old, 13 years old. I can't hardly stay awake because I've been awake for 2 days. And I'm so excited to go fishing. And yeah, so I keep my work box. And then usually if I'm leaving town Friday morning, Thursday night at 8 o'clock, oh, now it's fishing time. And I quick do everything and hit the road and away we go.
No, 100%. You have to be. I still have that anticipation. There's times that like I won't let it be known a lot of times, but you know, there's times that I just lay there and I'm like, I'm not going to go to bed. And then just sit there and then you're like, oh, it's time to go. You just lay there all night. It's the longest nights ever, but you're just ready to go. I still have that to this day. They're pretty long nights, but they're worth it. You get up and you're ready to go.
Yep. So no pre-practice for the Classic. Any extra research, homework, any of that good stuff?
Oh yeah, I always, from time to time I stay on it. Obviously there's other things going right now. I obviously you want to learn what, the lake looks like, the topography of it, the contours and stuff like that. You look at all these different, there's going to be a spawning event possibly or pre-spawn. So you look at that, you look at the moon phase, the prediction. You don't, only God knows the weather. So we have to wait for that. So,
right.
I don't put too much thought into it till I get a pretty solid forecast, but I do put a lot of back work into it. I look at stuff, but I'm already going to find those areas. Now I just need to see the weather, and then weather permitted, I'll choose where I practice within that event.
Gotcha.
So I pay attention to all that stuff. So I guess that's something I do a little bit different. I really don't care where Joe Blow catches his or this Joe Blow catches his. I could care less. I'm going to fish where Wesley wants to fish and where weather permitted is. Like, where is my odds the best to be successful? At that day. So that's kind of how I do it. And sometimes I end up by that person. That's just the way it is.
Right.
Sometimes I don't, but I do the same thing as you would hunting. I try to follow the wind or do what goes on with that.
Right. And that's, I think, so important, and something that for some reason I've struggled with over the past few years is adapting on the fly quicker. At home, 6, 8, 10 years ago, for a 3-4 year stretch, I hit, where I was consistently in check range, maybe win a tournament or two, but it would be, hey, I got a game plan halfway down the lake in the morning, like, this already isn't right. Just pull over somewhere you've never been because it looks right, feels right, and put a puzzle piece together there, and then be able to run it and execute on it, And I don't know. I feel like I don't know if it's intimidation's not the right word, because I'm not intimidated by really anyone or anything. I mean, I don't mean to sound that way, but I'm not. I just not in the right mindset, I guess, to do that. Like, you can't force that feeling or that skill, like, but when it's there, you'll recognize it and you'll be able to run with it. But forcing that and trying to find that again is, impossible sometimes.
No, I agree. I've been the same way. I don't worry about that. It comes. It will come. I don't think I'm necessarily any better than one person. I always tell people I just put myself in a position to be more successful sometimes than someone else. So maybe I'm not fundamentally as good as X, but I made better decisions than them. So that's something I hold myself that I tell myself I'm a lot better at, because I look at these things. I don't try to force this. I'm willing to adjust. I've always been that way. I don't know. I don't know why I'm that way. A lot of people struggle with that. I'm willing to take the risk and adjust, completely forget what you've done. I've done that a couple times, just completely wing it.
Yep. Yeah. Some of the best tournaments, we had one, we were part of a big charity tournament this year for the Badger Childhood Cancer Network. And we sponsored a team, and her and I fished it as teammates for it. And, there's one area of this particular lake that I often fish that time of year. And, we went there, and the first dock, nothing. The second dock, I caught a little fish. The third dock, I caught a legal fish. And the fourth dock, in a matter of 10 casts, we won the tournament with 94 boats right there. And we were done by like 7:45. And then, 2 hours later, I was 15 miles up the river where it gets real skinny and you're jumping sandbars. One of my buddies saw me and he goes, well, when did you catch those fish? I said, I had them right away in the morning. He goes, well, why on earth were you all the way up there? I'm like, well, maybe there was a bigger one. I'm like, I knew I was good. I was feeling confident. I was feeling comfortable. And we're going to push our limits here. So
you could not catch a fish in the
yeah, it was crazy.
I caught one of them.
Yeah, I got to school. So, and then we were talking a dock in 2 feet of water. We caught, I think, 11 fish out of there in like 15 casts. I got them so fired up, and I picked the poles up after I caught like 2, and in the middle of picking the poles up, I got a bite, so I put them back down. So by the time we get positioned, I'm only like 8 feet from the dock. I got the school so fired up. She made a cast, missed the dock by 6 foot, and caught the second biggest fish of the day at a Senko.
Hey, you
It
still
was
caught
fun.
one. It don't matter. You caught one. It don't
I
matter.
did.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yes.
don't
Hey,
worry.
I
Everybody
caught
knew.
it. We waited in, and I made sure everybody knew that I did contribute that day. I was not just for showing the boat.
Hey, that's what
On
counts.
a Senko, she's got like 10 foot of line out. She's like, I got one, and she's just cranking. I got one. Dude, I'm about ass over tea kettle trying to get the net because I saw how big it was. I'm like, that one's gonna call out like a 3-pounder. I'm like, we need that one. And she's just cranking. I'm like, stop reeling. Yeah, it was chaos.
So I go with my dad when he gets the opportunity. Me and him go a good bit, but it's pretty funny. In the wintertime, we seem to find ourselves together a lot more. Fishing. I guess now that I'm not as busy, it's easier to be able to go then and plan to go and whatnot with his schedule and mine. But it's pretty funny how it's changed. We over the time, like we used to, he'd fish hard. Now he finds himself. We got a really big net. He takes it, puts the handle on under his chin, sets the net on the floor, stands on the edge of the back deck, and holds it like this, and just waits for me to hook one because we're just out there just for most of the day. When we get close to the bank, every day I'm like, hell, we'll go over here and do this for a little bit. Hey, he'll get in on that, but when it comes to other stuff, he's like this, and I'm like, he's like, it really sucks I can't contribute. I'm like, yeah, man, you caught every one of them that I did. You caught them in the net, so it counts. So that's the way you have to look at it. You catch them in the net. That's how it counts.
Yeah.
That's a key factor.
Right. Dad, we were over 2 weekends ago. Buddy's got a cabin on bottom end of pool 11 over there. So we were over there bluegill fishing. We had about 5 inches of ice or whatever. It took my dad not been over that way in forever. I said, he calls me Friday night. He's like, hey, you want to go fishing tomorrow? I said, yeah. He's like, I said, be up to my shop at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever. And so the next morning, and he says, well, where are we going? I said, actually change the plans. I said, we're heading over the Mississippi River. And of course, there was a big ice storm that day. So we made it over there. We wound up in the marina over on the Iowa side. I mean, we must have caught 150 fish in like 4.5, 5 hours. A lot of little ones. But yeah, it was an absolute blast. So, but now it's, same thing like it used to be, I needed help with this and this. Now he just comes over, because we're using 1 pound test line. And he just comes over with a little bitty, like 1/64th ice fishing jig and 1 pound in his line, and he just holds them out. He's like worse than taking the kids. I spend more time fixing poles for him and the kids than I do fishing myself.
Y'all can have the ice fishing. I'm out on that.
How come everybody says that?
Everybody down south is, dude. I'm telling you. I mean, we got shanties, we got heaters, we got, dude. You'll
stay warm. You won't be cold.
I don't think it's the cold. It's just the thought of if I fell through the ice that would bother me. That would be the problem. If I fell through the ice, what am I going to do?
You won't fall through.
Hold your arms up.
Yeah, okay. My luck, it would open up the whole tent and we'd all go down.
You just have to go with, like when we go up deer season, my buddy's cabin's on the lake, and the last 3 years it hasn't been, but the first 3 years it was, we would hunt Saturday, Sunday, Monday we were on the ice catching crappies, bluegills, walleyes. Well, at that time he weighed about 8 more pounds than I did. So we would tie a rope around him and send him out first to see how big the ice was. You just have to have a bigger friend that's willing to go first.
He was. Well, I don't guess he would be considered a counterweight in that situation.
No, I was, because I was the guy who shot him on the other end.
That's awesome. You just let him take the chance and walk across there. We'll figure it out from there.
I've got a picture, or I've got a video on my phone from a couple years ago. We're up there hunting. His brother calls, who's like a half hour north, and he's like, hey, such and such lake's got enough ice on it. We're like, all right. We rush into town. We get waxworms and windows and stuff like that. And we go over there. We get to the lake, and you got to walk about 50 yards through the trees to get there. And I'm like, looking at all the holes. I'm like, hey, what did you test ice with? He goes, oh, the thing I had was a splitting maul. So he's on a sled, pulling himself through the trees with an axe, punching holes in the ice. Now, mind you, it's like 1 hit, maybe 2, and he's going through. I'm like, man, are you sure? Yeah, we got out there, we drilled holes, and I got a picture of it. By the time, a 6-inch hole, and after about an hour of being there, there was a 10-foot circle of water around it because the ice was sinking. So on the way out, I had a 100-foot rope in the truck, so I tied it to the hitch of the truck and strung it out through the trees in case we needed an emergency to get back off. we didn't catch any fish. So it was completely worthless. But
how much ice is enough ice? I guess. What is that? What is it?
2 inches.
2 inches. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
I
out.
wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
We need a foot before I go.
Yeah.
A foot, people. I mean, we got quads and everything else. 18 inches, we got our truck out there.
Oh my gosh.
So I have, when we've gone to northern Minnesota, actually right across the street to the south of Leech Lake there, we would go up perch fishing. We'd usually go first week of March, second week of March. I got a 10-inch power auger. I got an extension for it. I can drill 57 inches of ice. And I hit 2 spots a few years ago. I didn't make it. We were averaging 42 inches of ice, but I had 2 spots. It was over 57 inches thick.
Oh, cow.
Yeah, so you just roll right up there. I mean, you just sit in the driver's seat of the truck with the radio on, open the door, drill a hole, and sit there and jig.
That's my style right
Yeah,
there.
oh yeah, that's
I'd be up for that.
Yeah. If we're doing 1.5 to 2 inches of ice, it's usually a little back ditch or a pond somewhere. And if you fall in, you're only going up to your belly button.
Yeah. How far is the closest heater?
That's early ice. We don't even take heaters out. They're back in the truck at that point.
They're just built different. I go outside in 40-degree weather. I'm like, I gotta get some more clothes on.
We set
you want to know, you want to think of something crazy. I grew up, my dad raced snowmobiles on the ice. So think about as many trucks and boats that you have for trailers for a tournament. Think about that many trucks and trailers pulling snowmobiles parked on the frozen lake so that you have your pit crew basically there to go race. So you're talking an entire parking lot of trucks and trailers on the ice, plus all the snowmobiles that they're racing.
I'm good. Y'all can do that all you want to. I'll stay down here.
Right out of high school, I went framing for a guy, and my foreman at the time was into hunting and outdoor stuff, but never been ice fishing. And we, my roommate and I at the time were we had one lake, we were just hammering the big bluegills, right? He's like, man, I'd really like to go with you guys. I said, absolutely, we're going Saturday. Come on over. So we were parking the truck and walking down onto the lake, and there were some people that were driving things out there, and it was a little iffy. Like 14 inches, I wasn't driving, right? We're in the shack. We got the heater rolling. It's probably 8 degrees outside. And he goes, man, I got to stretch for a minute or whatever. Well, as soon as he stands up, all of a sudden you hear the big boom in the ice. When you hear the ice making noise, it's making ice. That's okay. You're good, right? Well, this big pressure crack comes right through the middle of the shanty, the hole, and the shanty kind of shifts, right? He turns white as a ghost, unzips the shanty, steps outside right as a minivan drives by. And he gets back inside and he's just like quiet. I'm like, dude, you okay? He's like, I don't know about this. I think I'm gonna go back to shore. I'm like, dude, you're fine. Like, we haven't got there's 200 people out here. You're fine. You're gonna be okay. But yeah, just white as a ghost, dude. It was kind of funny.
That would be me. I'd be the white as the ghost guy.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun though, especially when you get up north, like Minnesota and up into Canada and stuff like that, where they've got the those permanent shacks and basically you can sleep in out there. Ours are all portable. We pop them up, pop them down.
If there's a chance of ice where I live, they cancel work and school the next day. For most people, if they think there's going to be ice on the road, they cancel it. Anything. No, I'm good. You're talking about 40 inches of ice and however much snow. I'm good.
week and a half ago, the guys, we didn't work Thursday because it was like 18 below at the wind chill. It was just brutal. Temperature of like 2 below, 18 below at the wind chill. And I'm like, all right, we're going to take the day off. But I said, I got a crane 8 o'clock Friday morning. We're setting trusses. Yeah, well, the wind stopped, but it was still -1 when the crane rolled in. By the time we got done setting trusses, from running around, I had icicles hanging off my mustache and my beard. Yeah.
Yeah, y'all are crazy.
Yes.
So back to the fishing. What's your thoughts on the no entry fees? Is that a positive or a negative for you?
I think it's the right direction to go.
Yeah.
I think it's the ultimate thing. I mean, I understand there's so many perspectives. I mean, I actually think it's a good thing. Obviously, the payout wasn't where it really needed to be, but whenever Bass made that decision, it wasn't spiteful. It wasn't intended to be a negative thing towards anybody. It got turned into that, but that wasn't the reason they done it. They genuinely thought that's what the anglers wanted,
Sure.
completely, and it is. But we have to figure out how do we maintain the payouts we were having with no entry fees, and
Right.
I think it's a group effort that it may take a few years to refine and figure it out. it'll take some trials. There's some things that could happen, and I'm actually excited. I think the route that we ended up with, the final solution, is the best thing that we could do. And then we can go from here. You get a good baseline. So I think the no entry fee helps because that takes away that huge lump sum of, you're going to pay this much, et cetera, and off the top immediately. So it doesn't allow for you to lose as much money if you were to have a bad year, which is
right for sure.
Yeah. So,
well, and it has to take a little. I mean, that $45,000. That was that. I mean, that's a chunk of money. I don't care who you are.
Right.
That's a chunk of money, and to not have to be ponying that up early on, as a rookie like last year and stuff like that, or even going into your second year, it's got to relieve the stress on your shoulders a little bit of not having to worry about that and be able to fish a little freer.
Yeah. For this 24-year-old, it was 23 last year. It was, and I looked at my bank account and was like, "Oh boy, I better catch him. We're in trouble.
We're all in.
We're all in right here." So, yeah, it definitely relieves some pressure, not having to worry about that. But no, to some extent, it also kept you in the game and made you fish harder. But if you don't have enough desire or that you're not competitive enough that you want to compete, then you shouldn't be there in the first place. So if the entry fee is the reason that made you fish hard, then there's a problem. But I guess the one thing it was about it was it did make people fish hard because it was like, holy cow, I've got my who knows how much money just in this one event, But it's all good. I do like the no entry fee thing. I like the direction it went. We'll just have to see where things go from here. I mean, that's honestly how I feel about it. That's what I've told every person that I've talked to, from people at Bass, anglers. I'm excited with the final decision, and it gives a foundation. That's anything you do, you have to have a foundation. The whole key to a process is you have to start it. So now we have started it. Now we can build from here. If you never start, then you'll never go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's a very good way to look at it. It's a lot better than. But I think as two adults, and we can sit here and discuss it because we're not looking for YouTube clicks and creating drama. And I mean, I'm so over all that.
Dude.
Yeah,
I'm out on that.
I mean, that's probably one of the best descriptions I've heard of it. I mean, that's really good. I like that a lot. That's awesome.
That's just my perspective on a lot of things. I mean, I probably give credit for too much stuff, but at the same time, it keeps your mind open and allows you to just see where things go. Yep. You can build your own perspective on whatever you feel as you want to. My view and somebody else's may be different. I'm associated with it, and that's 100% how I feel about it. I don't feel like it was a jab or nothing like that. It was a reasonable trying to help, and it was just misunderstood off the beginning. So,
and hopefully with the viewership and everything, their viewership online keeps getting better. That's why they keep getting more time added to Fox. So hopefully, as the viewership keeps increasing, there's more airtime on the TV and everything else that's going to bring in money other places to hopefully help increase those payouts. So.
Oh, there's so many things that could be, the airtime will be a huge deal. I mean, there's a lot of other, not that I necessarily have ideas. I feel like there's a lot of things that you could do to get that, get there somehow. But the airtime is the ultimate key, that's 100%, increasing that, making us anglers more valuable, not necessarily for both the company and personally, you have your own business, that helps.
Oh, for sure.
It's not a pessimistic relationship. It's mutualistic, so that you're both being rewarded for the work. That's what we have to do. We have to become one and continue to grow.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
So now that that entry fee has been lessened by that much, how was last year compared to this year, or your rookie year, sponsor-wise? Are you successful in the sponsor front? Do you struggle in the sponsor front? Do you hear a lot of no's?
And I'm not a great person to ask about that. I mean, yeah, I do enough to be successful in my eyes, but to someone else, I may not be successful. For the means that I live within, I am successful. How about that?
Right.
And that's all I care to be. So I really don't pursue a whole lot more outside of that because it fits the desire that I have. My goal of fishing is not to become a millionaire. It's to be able to do what I love and make a living, provide for the people that I need to. So I am able to do that. So
Perfect.
that's I'm content with where I'm at and what's going on. Obviously, the goal is not to become, there's a difference in content and satisfaction. I say, you can be content, but you never want to be satisfied. I keep saying that. It sounds like it contradicts one another, but in my head, it doesn't. Maybe by the book it does, but if you can be content but continue to work to get better,
Yep.
But
I
the
100% understand.
Grow. But if you're not happy with where you're at, then you are in the wrong place at the start. You're in bad place. You don't even want to be there.
No, if you're in a competitive field and you're satisfied, you become complacent.
Correct.
Then you expect it to just happen. You expect it to be handed to you. I do construction. I've been self-employed for a little over 20 years, and my guys, I pay my bills, feed my family. My guys pay their bills based on how aggressive I am with bids and how, I can conduct myself on a job site or in job meetings and stuff like that. And when you get comfortable, then then you expect it to happen, then you get your feelings hurt because you weren't awarded the job you thought for sure that you had because your buddies with so-and-so. So yeah, you got to stay competitive. You got to be never satisfied. My mom has complained about me since I was in high school. I don't understand. You got everything you want, but you're not satisfied. You're right. I'm not, because I think I can do better.
Correct. That's the same thing that I have. That's the goal. I'm not necessarily satisfied, but I'm more than content. I am able to sustain what I do. If I was running rampant and like asking, yes, I still do get no's. Not as many, just direct no's, but I get, obviously a lot of times now you get offered something, but it may not be to what you expect. It just doesn't mean it falls in your lap. I can tell you that. They're not just shucking $100 bills at me. I promise. I can assure you of that. But it's all good. I'm more than happy. I like the sponsors I have. I actually enjoy having, more of a non-endemic side than an endemic. I guess that's one thing that makes it a little more interesting for me. Because most of the sponsors I do have are outside the industry or slightly industry related. But they all take care of me. I'm super happy. I mean, I have a good relationship with all the people. I build all my sponsorships off of relationships. So everybody that's on my boat, I have, I do a lot of stuff for them. They do stuff for me. We continue to grow that relationship, continue to trust each other. They know what to expect out of me. I know what to expect out of them. So we take care of one another. So I can say that for every person on my boat, I have a personal relationship with multiple people at each of the companies. It has grew to that. And I'm very pleased with everything, even from Mountain Dew to Impulse Lithium to I picked up another. I did get a new one that's a non-endemic this year that I'm excited about. I've had that relationship for a long time, and now that opportunity has been present. But I guess the biggest thing that I could say that for somebody that's asking is never, you've heard this, don't ever burn a bridge to anybody. But there's so many people that I met at a younger age that have looped back around to where at one point I was like, what can that, you shouldn't look at a human and say, what can this person do for me? That's not how you should look at it. But you don't ever know what that role may play in your life, like what they may do, and that's not how you should look at somebody. But you don't want to just burn a bridge and be a butthole person. That's why I just try to be as nice as I can, and it's been as good as possible. I just be myself.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Just be yourself.
Yeah. Don't fake it. Don't push it. Don't force it.
Yeah.
I always tell everybody, say what you mean. And I tell my kids all the time, say what you mean and mean what you say. Even if it's not going to be a favorable outcome, you say what you mean and you mean what you say.
Right.
And you don't stay away from all the BS and all the drama and all the hype and this and that. But
I did go for some endemic stuff this year within more. I mean, obviously I have several that are in the industry, but they're not necessarily the major sponsors, My titles I had a co-title between Mountain Dew and Impulse Lithium last year. It'll be very similar again this year to the same extent. some graphics changing. Mountain Dew changes one every year, just depending on what they're branding that year. Last year it was MDOG, which was their branding for the outdoor gear stuff, which was where they were as a marketing, where they did the codes and stuff. I forgot the exact line of it, but that's went away. Now it's just standard Mountain Dew again. So same graphics, there'll be some additional stuff, some more into industry stuff, but that'll be revealed soon enough. I just keep that under the wraps. I don't like to spoil nothing. So
Right.
There you go.
I'm
Let's keep an eye
excited
out for that.
I'm excited. I am.
When
I still
you guys,
got the same boat, so I'm happy with that.
Well, there you go.
Not the same boat, same brand boat. So
Same with Blazer.
100%.
Yeah,
No,
I know you're a Blazer
that's
guy.
just where I want to be.
That's good.
I love them to death. So that's what counts. As long as I like them, that's what matters. But everybody that gets in one seems to like mine as well. So when you get ready to get a real boat, holler at me.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, your guy your rep that used to be with those is now with Falcon. So Chris is.
Yeah. I know Chris very well.
I'm sure you do.
I do.
He's a different cat. We were talking, I don't know, probably a month and a half ago or something, and a buddy and I might be getting on a deer lease with him in Missouri. I don't know yet where he was. What he texted. He texted me about something.
Oh yeah.
And then 4 hours later, we've been texting for 4 hours about, and he's sending me 7,000 pictures of these giant deer and 200 inchers and everything else. And I got 2 spots on this deer lease. Well, how far is it? He's like, it's closer to you than me. And yeah, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. We're still texting.
Oh yeah, that's Chris, 100%.
Yeah, he's a character. He's something else. So, well, cool, dude. That's a heck of a first year. We're definitely going to be watching you this year. As I got to know you in the opens, I will. I don't say this about a lot of people, but you're one of the guys that I can honestly say does it right, does it by the book, does their own thing, works hard, and has definitely earned your spot atop the elites there. So congratulations, man. I'm proud of you, and I'm damn happy for you.
Wow, I appreciate it, and very much. So I try to do things correctly. I try to do them the way I was raised and do. So no matter what, that's will be who I am. Hell, I still go to work. That's what I was showing you. That's what I was showing people. There's the blood.
And like you got we promised my wife in the beginning is that we wouldn't show his blood or the fact
we
that
showed
I'm
it.
with work and I got my
elf PJs.
I got my Woo Tungsten and my elf pajamas on. So
I actually covered up. It's all over my shirt too. I actually put something on to cover up my shirt. I run in like crazy to get in here. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get here on time to get on there. I'm gonna keep them up all night, but we made it.
You're fine.
Yeah, we don't ever.
It's all good. You might have to put a graphic warning. There's whatever,
Yeah.
Holy cow.
There you could be your clickbait, graphic content, and Wesley holding up his bloody thigh.
Yeah, they wonder why it's bloody. I didn't get stabbed. That is word.
It was work, hard work.
Yes. So, well, I appreciate everything. Thank you for the support. Thank you for having me. I'm actually about to get off here and get ready to go fishing in the morning.
Awesome,
Right,
dude.
well, good luck.
Thank
you very much.
I got plasters coming to a job tomorrow, and maybe tomorrow afternoon if the ice. We got some rain today, so I don't know if there's gonna be any ice left or not. So maybe some ice fishing. If not, probably just work.
Oh, before you go, why don't you tell everybody where to find you on social media?
Yeah. So I have, for some reason, I can't line up my accounts because somebody has one of them taken. It has been for years. But anyway, my Facebook is Fishing with Wes, and my Instagram is just Wesley Gore Fishing. So one day we'll eventually have it where they align with one another, but right now they're not. But that's where you can keep up with me at. There's always something on there. You can keep up. Soon enough, we'll be back fishing. So just look up me there.
So awesome, perfect. Man. Awesome. Thank you.
Good luck, and we'll see you at the Classic.
Yeah,
yes, we'll be there.
Much.
All right, have a good night.
All right, bye.